Morning everybody, thank you for coming back to Sandy Bottom Homestead, and it's time to get dirty. Yeah, we're gonna do some planting today. I've got some planting. I got my first cabbages that are gonna go outside, and then I'm gonna show you some other stuff I planted, and I gotta replant, and then I'm also gonna do a little bit of harvesting at the end. But I really wanna kind of start the process of, damn, that sun feels good, how I go about planting my garden. And you'll see this repeatedly over and over, more than likely, but I just want you guys to see what and how I do this in my yard. So first off, we filled our bed. Isn't it beautiful? Nice, fresh dirt. And this is a 50-50 mix. So it's 50% compost, 50% topsoil. If I had it my way, I would start a bed with a 75-25, 75 soil, 25 compost, but that's not how it was offered to me, and I'm totally cool using this. And these are what we're planting, these beautiful, beautiful bobcat cabbages. So we are excited to get these in the ground. So what I like about the way that I plant is I don't really till much, and if I do, I'll do like a really light tilling, but I definitely have to work the soil every time and create these furrows. So I have to relay the lines in here every season, and I like to do it every time I plant. Just kind of turns it up a little bit, mixes things up. Nothing too crazy, but we want to get these drip lines deeper. And this is the first step. So we're gonna make a furrow. Got our furrow dug, and I do want to say this real quick, just a total side note. I had an individual comment later, and they said, when are you gonna stop talking about it and start planting? And clearly you don't understand the way that this gardening thing works. So I can't just come out and plant whenever the hell I feel like it. I gotta go by the method. I gotta follow the method that I follow and do what I do. And so unfortunately that individual is no longer with the channel. It does suck for them, but I don't need somebody to be rude to me and tell me what to do. I'm a grown man, and it doesn't need to be that way. So I am planting, and once we start, we don't stop. So we are gonna be actively planting basically for spring crops for the next month to month and a half. We're gonna be planting consistently. And like I said, this is the beginning, but we're working our gardens piece by piece. So I like to get probably about 4 inches down roughly to get my furrow dug. And then I'll just take my drip line here, and I'm just gonna drop it right into place. And this is really important. Once I switched over to using drip irrigation, I really do like it. Kind of a pain sometimes to like work with. You got to manhandle it a little bit, but I'm just going to lay it right on top. So we're going to add our drip. Boom. We're just going to add it in, and then we've got to add our fertilizer. So I also had somebody recently, I do 2 kinds of fertilizer for spring, and I still out of blood meal. I haven't made it to the store yet, but it's not a huge deal. But I said that the garden tone was a 10-10-10, and they corrected me. It's actually a 4-3-3, so it's got more nitrogen in it, but it's close enough to well balanced. And if you're looking at something and it says like 4-4-4, 10-10-10, 20-20-20, you just want to look at the numbers in ratio to themselves. As far as I understand it, the way I operate in my space is I don't look at it as 25 is better than 4. I don't really look at it like that. I just look at the ratio in it. So this is a pretty well balanced fertilizer. We do want more nitrogen for these crops, so that's why we're gonna do this. But then we're gonna come back after I go to the store and top dress with some blood meal just to give it that extra boost of nitrogen to get these plants going. So there is that. But I'm gonna take this coconut shell here, which is a fair amount of fertilizer for what this is, but this is so important that it gets you going, and this can make, if you do nothing else as far as adding food to your garden, this will be enough. Now that being said, especially for these spring crops, I will come back and do more, but I just sprinkle this right on top of that drip line. You really want this to have good soil contact. You can probably hear it hitting the drip line as we speak. Just get it all in there. And then I think I'm gonna cut it back a little bit. I'll show you how I manage it and what it looks like as far as when I'm gonna stop. You can see there's a pretty good dusting in there. Hopefully you can see that. The light's pretty off, but that's a pretty good dusting. So I'm gonna leave it at that and just kind of go with it. And sometimes a lot of what I do is by eye. I don't do a lot of measuring. So then I do want to take a minute and say this. I've had a lot of people say like, hey, you don't need fertilizer, this, that, and the other. You don't need to feed your garden. You just need leaf mold, compost, stuff like that. And that's fertilizer, plain and simple. Leaf mold, compost, worm castings, worm bins, stuff like all that natural stuff is all fertilizer. It's just not a man-made fertilizer, even though compost is kind of man-made, but you know what I mean. It all is considered a fertilizer, and it's just to what extent. So remember, this bed is 50% compost as of right now, and we're still adding fertilizer, and this has always worked for me. So I'm going to continue to do this. And I know there's a lot of people that feel very strongly about fertilizer and that you don't need it, but if you're adding that stuff in, you're adding fertilizer. Chicken manure, same thing, fertilizer. Just, it is what it is. So you can call it what you want, but the bottom line is it's all fertilizer that's going to enhance the growth of your garden. Now, since these are hybrid bobcat cabbages, I mean, they are significantly larger than the heirlooms. I usually would put them one per square foot, which means in this 8-foot bed I would put 8. I think I'm going to use a 6-pack for each row and give them a little bit more space to try and get some bigger cabbages. So I think that's what we're going to do. And actually one of them I believe has 5 in it, which I kind of skipped, but I think it's going to work out good, and it'll give it room to grow more and get a more sizable cabbage. On this back row over here, we got that kale, which is doing great, but I'm actually, side note, I'm curious to see how root bound these are. So can you see that? Just starting to get root bound. So this is a really good sign. This is like maximum time, really time to plant them. They've got good coverage in the soil, still a little soft, and then just a little bit of wrapping. So we've done really good about timing this out. And there's an emitter every foot on these. So I'm just going to try and attempt to plant on every emitter. And what the emitter does, actually I can't do that because I want to space them a little bit more out, but the emitter is where the water comes from. So we want to make sure we get maximum water to these. You can see, just adding it in, fill it in, and then we're just going to go down the line here and finish up the rest of these, and I'll come back and show you what we've done. That's for all the curious minds out there. There is a couple things going. There's more than meets the eye here. It's just like a transformer, you know, more than meets the eye. We've got a couple things that I take into account when I plant these, and I'm going to just kind of show you the planting and then the thought process behind it, because this is about succession sowing and stuff like that, or succession planting, not sowing, but planting, 2 different things. Remember that. We've got to think of those as different, but here we go. Let's talk about spacing real quick. Spacing these out, I had 5 in one 6-pack and 6 in another. I'm not totally upset about it. This one, so the back row here has got 5. It'll have more space to grow, that's fine. I'm also not upset about it here because it's still plenty of space. I gave them about 18 inches apart. So I don't do square foot gardening, not really. So I'm just kind of taking advantage of the space that we have available to us and planting. And if you guys are interested, let me know. I'll definitely talk about why I don't really do square foot gardening. And I'm sure there will be many people that will spit in my face about it, but that's okay. I've got washcloths and stuff. I can take care of it. But as far as this goes, I do this bed first, and I'm gonna plant it now. So it's February 1st-ish. We're gonna plant this now, and then we're gonna come all the way over here. And it kind of works out good in my favor because I've been kind of lazy. Popped this bed off too last night, and this bed right here is kind of functioning not amazing. So I want to top it off as well, rebury the lines, do all the usual stuff, and then I'm going to plant another row of cabbage in here. But I'm going to do that at a later date. So I know when my last frost date is, I know my climate, and I know my weather to the extent of like I can figure out how long it's going to be before it gets too hot for the cabbages to grow, and also how long before I need to put something else in the ground. So if I wait just a couple weeks and then I plant that garden bed over there with that cabbage, and I'm staggering my harvest so I don't get walloped with 11 cabbages plus whatever I put over there. So let's just, I think I'm only gonna put like probably 6 over there. So we're gonna get like 18 cabbages at once. Nobody wants that. And I mean, in reality, they're not all harvested at the same time, but you know, you don't wanna be stuck with a rapid succession situation, because you gotta remember, not only do I have these, but in this bed back here, I've got like 13 more cabbages. So I've got a lot of cabbages here, which we really like cabbage, clearly. So, you know, we know that this is gonna be coming out soon, and we're gonna be eating a lot of cabbage, making sauerkraut, stuff like that over the coming months. So we're prepared for that, but we want to do it in stages and steps. So that's why we succession plant these. And basically all it is you plant one and then you wait a designated amount of time and plant the next. So when these, if I wait about 2 weeks, these plants will already be starting to get comfortable in the ground and start the growing process. Whereas these plants over here will just be getting started, so you can kind of see the process and how it works. And this time of year, it's all dependent on the weather. So I'm in coastal North Carolina, so don't ask me in the comments, that's where it is. And our weather from here on out, we've got about 3 months left until our last frost date. We may only get 3 more freezes, but we're gonna get more freezes. And so we need to take that into account in our planting. We don't need to get too cocky and too brave about our weather right now. So that's where we set up this method to do this. And then we know that when we pull these out, what we're gonna put in next. And then we can kind of plan accordingly. For instance, in this bed, we know that we're gonna put sweet potatoes in this bed, which means I need to get this bed cleared out completely by May 1st. And that should be a good possibility. So we've got 4 rows in here. 3 of them are filled up. We've got 1 empty one. And this is going to be all lettuce, and we're going to plant 32 lettuces in this 8-foot row. So somewhere between 32 and 24. I like to do 3 per square foot, but we may do 4, depends on the variety. If I do Little Jim here, then we'll put 4 in. If we do the Vivian lettuce, which is bigger, then we'll do 3. And we may even only do 2. It just kind of depends how froggy I feel and what else I'm planting in the rest of my garden. Trying to utilize this space to the best of our ability. Now in my gardening plan, I left this second bed back here empty because I put that manure in it. And I don't know if you remember in a video, I said I'm gonna put this manure in it, and I specifically want to see what this hot manure will do to these broccoli plants that I wasn't really planning to harvest, but I'm not planning to harvest them. These plants at the time, I mean, they may have had, these are the ones the fire ants got, so they may have had 5 roots. I mean, I would be surprised. And since I put that chicken manure in there and nothing else, look at what's happened. That's a full head of broccoli right there that's actually trying to bolt. So after seeing this and the amount of chicken manure I put in, which I did not put a ton in, but I did definitely put manure in here, turned it back over into the soil. I mean, you can see right here, there's a little bit of it right there. I am going to plant this now in about a month. So this leaves it open to plant a lot of things. We just need to kind of look and see what we want to do, what we want to put in it. And I'm going to, when I get the next load of that 50-50 mix, I'm going to top this off as well. So we're going to just, I flipped it, turned everything in, and then I'm just going to top it off. And you can see we've got our lines running. They're out right now. So we're going to kind of build this up. So I'm taking that into account in my plan. I know I'm going to do lettuce here, and I'm pretty sure that I may end up doing the taller lettuce here that won't rest on the ground for the, you know, in case there's chicken manure or any disease or anything like that. but at the time we put in, it should be about 2 months old, which means it should start to be break down in the warmer weather, and the water will help speed up that process. Also topped off this bed, which needed it really bad. This is just a really small bed that I built for the cattle panel to go in. And the only thing I can really get to grow here are snow peas. And unfortunately, the other day, my son came out and planted snow peas, but I had to he helped me redo it, but I just told him that the seeds would grow. So I'm gonna restart them like I told him, and just make him think that he grew them. I feel kind of bad doing it, but I want the little man to feel successful, you know? So we're just gonna go down the line, drop a couple seeds in. We're a little late planting these, but the weather is just about perfect for growing snow peas right now. And this is a cash crop for me. It's about $5 a half a pound of snow peas, and I get off one 4-foot row, we'll get a quarter pound a day. So if you translate that to money, that's a lot of money. So we're just gonna kind of work through that. But I feel bad. I just want him to feel like he's been successful, and it's only been 2 days, so we'll just keep that between you and I, if you don't mind. He'll find this one day when he starts watching these videos after I'm dead and gone, but that's all right. It'll be one of those memories. You know, I remember when I was a kid, I went fishing at the beach, and man, we wore out the pinfish. I don't know if you know what a pinfish are, but these were about this big, and I mean, we thought they were whales. So we took them home, and I didn't find this out until I was in my 30s, that my parents actually, my granny, she cleaned all the fish, but then my parents also went to the store and bought fish, and they cooked it and fed the family and said that we did it. And we didn't find out for many years, and my mom was worried that we were going to be really upset with her, and I didn't care. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I was like, man, they loved us that much where they wanted us to think that. So it was just cool to do. So same thing with him. Hopefully he'll appreciate it one day. But we also need to get some groceries now, just to kind of round out the day, right? We've done some planting, we've done some fertilizing, we've done some amending. So we need to do a little bit of harvesting. I had to go get my pruners. I was trimming some bonsai trees the other day with them, but I did want to say this too. I'm out here this time of day planting because the sun is easier on them, and the wind invariably will die down over the evening. And so this will kind of give it a chance to, the plants will not get as much transplant shock. So I try to do my transplanting in the evening as late as possible. It is a little windy today, but they've been sitting out getting beat by the wind. And back here in the backyard, they're actually protected. So it'll kind of work out pretty good. And in a day or two, they'll perk right up and it won't be a thing. And we're not projected to get any crazy cold. It's supposed to be like 31, maybe tonight. But they've been sitting outside and the roots in the 6-pack, so they're not been insulated very well. But now that they're in the ground, they're going to be more insulated. So we'll do that, and then tomorrow I will turn the in-ground system on and give them a good watering and get that process going. So you can see we've had the chickens on this bed kind of flipping it for us. So this is the potato bed, and we've got about 2 weeks before we're going to plant potatoes, so we're right on time for that. And we're going to top off this bed. I'll probably just put like an inch of that 50-50 on, or either our compost, and just work it in. But it's time for us to get a little bit more Brussels sprouts. So this is just absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've been wanting to get this bed more empty for a while, but I've just been so close to getting a decent harvest off these. And again, for me, anything would be a decent harvest, but this is my second harvest. And let's go ahead and clip it. And I'll show you what I consider a decent harvest. And I know some of you guys grow Brussels sprouts in really good climates for it, and you get, you know, you're like, oh, that's nothing. But for us in North Carolina, where it's known that this could be a failed crop, this is amazing for me. And all of this will go to either the compost. I'll split it between the compost and the chickens. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's a little bit smaller than I wanted, but you know, we're gonna get 2 plants today, and then next week we'll get a couple more. And the important thing is we're starting to clear out this bed. So I'm gonna go ahead and harvest this one too. And between the two of these plants, we will have at least a meal off of it. So I'm happy about that. So there's a fair amount of Brussels sprouts on there. Not the best, but you know, it's a learning process for me. Now, I'm not an expert at growing food, but I'm getting better each and every year, each and every season. I get better and better. And I really hope that you guys, like anything that I do on this channel, I hope it helps you guys move forward in your gardens, and you can just take a piece of it and apply it to yourself. And pretty soon I'm gonna go into a couple videos about the methods that I use to garden and kind of my philosophy about methods and stuff like that. So I hope you guys are here for that. But we're gonna continue clearing this out, and hopefully at this point we should be able to get about 5 or 6 more Brussels sprouts out of there within the next 2 weeks. And then with the warm weather and the higher sun, we should be able to get more and more coming, and then we can kind of clear it out and keep moving in the right direction.